Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for joining us today. Well, I've got another pistol video for you here. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Springfield Armory XDM Elite Compact and 10mm with the Hex Dragonfly optic. Now, I try not to be a complainer, but one of my standing complaints with the firearms industry is a lack of variety when it comes to compact 10mm pistols. Well, Springfield has answered with this pistol. So we're going to find out if it truly is a good concealed carry 10mm solution, and we're going to do that in just a minute. Alright, once again, welcome back. If you're new to the channel, or if you've been watching our videos and just haven't had a chance to do so, please consider subscribing. It helps us out a lot, and it's easy to do. All you gotta do is find that little subscribe button in the lower right hand corner of your screen there and give that a push. If you're on a mobile device, you can just scroll down below the video and you can hit the subscribe button there and hit the bell icon. It'll let you know whenever we do something new, and like I said, it really helps us out a lot, so we thank you. So, Springfield Armory XDM Elite Compact and 10mm. I've been waiting to get this, so I'm glad that we have this available to go over today, and there's a lot to talk about. So this is a new pistol. It's just recently been released, and as I said, with the lack of really good 10mm options out there, I was really excited to hear about this pistol. So let's get into what we would normally do here. Of course, we always want to do a size comparison for carry, and what I've selected here is going to be a little bit different in size, but I think you'll get where I'm going with this. Since we're talking about an optics-ready firearm, I've got a Glock 19 with the MOS here, so it's got the plate, and I've got a Vortex optic on it. Now, the optics positioning and size and all that's a little bit different, and there's some differences in some of the dimensions on this, which I'll show you, but there are some things that are pretty close alike. And if you look, the length of these two pistols is actually really similar. These are about the same length. If you look at the size of the trigger guards, if you look at the length of the grip, if you look at the thickness of the firearm, and then if you look from the back, from the grip, these are very, very similar in size. And the reason I bring this up is because obviously, we're talking about a 10mm versus a 9mm. So there's going to be a difference in capacity. But if you're used to carrying something like the Glock 19 and you carry with an optic, well, if you've been doing that, you're not going to have to make a huge jump in adjustment to go to this pistol in 10mm, because aside from slight changes in the width of the grip and things like that, it is very close to the size of the Glock 19 with the optic. So that'll give you an idea of what it's going to be like to carry it. All right, we're going to go ahead and talk about the features because we do have a lot to go over here. So before we get too far into that, I want to thank our friends over at Don's Weaponry for providing us this beautiful example of the Springfield Armory XDM Elite Compact in 10mm with the Hex Dragonfly. Don's Weaponry is a huge supporter of firearm safety and education, and we can't thank them enough for their support. All right, so let's check this thing out in no particular order. First of all, let's just get down to specifications here. This is a striker-fired polymer frame 10mm handgun. And we're going to go ahead and do a quick safety check. So you can see, obviously our magazine is empty. You can look and see that the chamber is empty. And we are clear all the way through. So we know that we are safe to continue talking about this thing. So I'm just going to start at the top. If you look at this here, obviously we have our optic. This is the Hex Dragonfly. And it is an aluminum body with an actual glass piece for your actual optic here. And I like that. The others I've seen that are polymer, they're still pretty durable, but I kind of like the idea that this is aluminum and glass. The only complaint I had about the Hex optics I've used before. My little Hellcat has got the Hex Wasp on it, and it's completely auto on and auto off. You don't have any control. It's just you take it out and it does it all by itself. In some ways that's good, but I like to have the option of turning my optic off. That's just me, you know. And with this one you can do that. You have an on-off switch, and the way it works on this one is you push and hold on the switch, and then the optic will come on in a second or two. And once it does, see if I can get where you can see it here. You can see the dot there, and if you push on the button, it will cycle through the different brightness. You can see how it comes back around to being full bright, and then you can just keep tapping it. It also changes it from a solid dot to the flashing dot, you see. So you just scroll all the way through and you'll get the different options just like that. And then you can push and hold on the on-off button and it will turn the optic off. Like I say, it's not a big deal, but I just like having that because I like to turn mine off. Even though the battery life on this thing is something ridiculous like 100,000 hours, so it probably doesn't matter. But anyway, it's a good feature. If you chose to take this off and just have the top plate on there, you have this U-notch rear sight, and you have that fiber optic front sight. I've used that sight picture before, and it's pretty good. So it's pretty good for shooting if you decide you don't want to have the optic on yours. Slide serrations are pretty deep. These are pretty serious. You can feel these on the weapon, so it makes it easy to cock the weapon. I've cocked 10mm weapons that really felt like it took a lot of effort, and this one, it's pretty effortless to go back and forth, and I like it. You can see here on the back, you've got this little pin that sticks out. That is your cocked striker indicator. So if you grab the weapon and pull the trigger, you'll see that disappear just like that. Now, it doesn't mean the weapon is loaded. That just means that the striker is ready to fire. You have a loaded chamber indicator here on top, right in front of the optic. It's that little bar right there. That'll be sitting raised up if you have a round in the chamber. You have your takedown lever. This is very simple. You know, if you're going to do disassembly for something like this, you'd lock it back, drop your lever, and you'd be able to slide your slide off and then take the other components apart. Very much like many other guns that you've already messed with. You do have your slide release here, which is ambidextrous. You have one on each side. You have a grip safety. Now, I'm not necessarily a fan of grip safeties, but I don't really think about this one because when I have my hand on the gun, it's, you know, it's taken up and it's kind of gone, so I don't really think about it too much. But it does have one. You've got your accessory rail here. It's not huge, but of course the gun's not huge, but you've got room to put a light or a laser on here if you so choose. You've got a pretty good sized trigger guard, which I like, and you've got some serrations on the front of it that are very much like the ones on the grip. And of course your magazine release is right here. Easy to reach. You've got a little contour here in the grip for your thumb. So when you do grip the pistol, the ergonomics are pretty good and you feel like you have some place for your hand to go. Now, looking at this, as you can see with my hands on the gun, you might think that there's an issue here because I've got two fingers here and I've got one kind of flying. Well, I've got some other guns that are compacts like this that I have a similar, you know, kind of grip pattern. It's not the perfect setup, but as long as these fingers, if I feel like they're secure, by the time I have my other hand in place, you know, this pinky is taken up with the rest of my grip anyway, and it felt very solid for me to hold and shoot the firearm. Now, there may be some people who have much bigger hands than I do that see this as a no-go, but there's a solution too, so don't worry. You can get magazines. You can actually take this mag well off. This comes off of the grip, and Springfield has different 15-round extended magazines, and let's move over here to your back strap because this ties in with this. You can put the bigger back straps on if you want, and if you do that, whatever back strap you have when you order those magazines, it matches that thickness of the back strap, if you get what I'm saying. That way it'll make it one continuous piece going down. So if you have a larger hand or if you just really want more space for your fingers to go on there, all you gotta do is remove the back strap and then you can go with the extended magazine. Not only does it give you more rounds, but it gives you more real estate for your hand. So you do have an option for that as well. The grip, I don't suppose, you know, I dislike the grip. You know, I've got grip surface on the back, some on the front, and a little bit on the front right here. I don't feel like that I don't have a good grip on the gun. It is kind of weird only having your grip and having pattern in a few places here, and the rest of this is smooth. But like I said, when I'm holding the firearm, I don't feel like I don't have a good grip on it. So there's no issues there. And then of course your trigger. You do have your trigger safety, and I'll talk more about the actual trigger performance when we get in the range section, but the trigger is right about 4 pounds is what I rated on this through my testing, and it does seem like it's a very consistent trigger, but we'll get to that in just a minute. But there you go. That is your overall feature set for the XDM Elite Compact and 10mm. Not bad. Well, let's talk about the range, because this is always where we have the most fun. So, as I said, I've been pretty excited to get this gun in my hands because I love a 10mm. I love the cartridge, and I've been so looking for a pistol that will handle a 10mm cartridge, handle it well, and be something I can carry compact. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the trigger on this. This particular gun, I really like this trigger. Has a really good reset there, and then when I bring the trigger in, you watch this, there's not that much to it, and of course it has a little stop on the trigger right there. You recycle the slide, you can see the reset again. It's very short. It's very consistent. Now, I used my scale on this trigger, and it came in at 4 pounds pretty consistently, right on the money. Maybe just a hair under, maybe just a tad over, but it was right there at 4 pounds. So it's one of the more consistent little triggers I've seen on a small gun like this. So whatever they did to make that happen, good job. Do more of that, because this trigger is really good. So let's talk about actual shooting. So I was worried about this, grip with my fingers hanging off and all that. But as I said, once I got both hands on the gun and actually got, in firing configuration, the gun felt pretty good in my hand. I didn't feel like anything was slipping. I didn't feel like it was a poor grip. And I didn't feel like something bad was going to happen. So let's talk about the ammo used for this test. Now, unfortunately, I didn't have a ton of ammo options to use because ammo has been getting hard to get. But, of course, we were able to get some good stuff to test here. I used some of this S&B, this 180 grain full metal jacket, and it ate this stuff like no problem whatsoever. It read really well. And then for the defensive ammo, I was able to get some of the SIG V Crown here, 180 grain, and this performed really well. I've used this particular type of ammo in lots of different configurations, and I've always been real happy with it. So using those different types of ammo, I didn't have any problems. There were no feed problems. The gun ran really well. And I didn't even bother to clean the firearm. Usually what I'll do when I get a brand new and take it out of the box, I'll just take it apart and clean it, and then I'll go to the range. And sometimes I'll just take it out of the box and put ammo in it and just see what happens. That's what we did here. And the XDM Elite performed flawlessly with the ammo that we used. And I'm quite sure that most other ammo would run well in this as well, because typically if my S&B does good, then my Blazer does pretty good. And the other brands of defensive ammo tend to run pretty well too. So let's talk about the optic. Now, the Dragonfly, once again, as far as shooting it, it's just like any other red dot as far as I'm concerned. When you have the sight picture and you're shooting, it's very easy to come back and get those follow-up shots. If you haven't used a red dot optic before, and there's a lot of people who haven't, there's something about having the right setting, I think, that makes a big difference. Like this one here, I'm going to cycle through. And I tend to use a brighter setting on my dot. Some people don't. But just looking at this, the brighter dot, to me, it's a lot faster for me to, get back on target when you make a shot. If you have a really good grip on the pistol, and keep it pointed down range correctly. If you have good mechanical, repetition on how you shoot, you can get back on this red dot really fast. And you can get some pretty amazing results with your shots using the red dot if you've got, good discipline of keeping the firearm, still, squeeze the trigger, stay on target. So the firearm performed really well out of the box. First shots at 21 feet, I had decent groupings inside of 2 inches anyway. And as I shot a couple of more mags and kind of got used to the way this feels, it got more to the 1.5 to 1 inch range as far as groupings. And so that's pretty good for 10 millimeter because I've shot several other 10 millimeter pistols before, including my Glocks, and I have to kind of work at that. So it manages the 10 millimeter round pretty well. If you're going to shoot this a lot, one thing to be advised, you're going to feel it. It doesn't take very many magazines of 10 millimeter ammo going through a compact pistol like this before you know that's what you've been doing. This texturing on the front is pretty aggressive, and this side between all of this texture in here, after you've slammed a few magazines through this and been pulling the trigger repeatedly, after about 3 or 4 magazines I could really feel it in my hand. So that's one thing to keep in mind. It is a powerful round. But as far as performance, really good job. As I said, brand new out of the box, pretty accurate. There was no stoppages, so it's pretty reliable. And it took a little getting used to with my 2-finger grip, but there was no issues with it. And I imagine with the extended magazines, it'd be fantastic. And when I get some, I'll do a follow-up on that as well. So what's it like to carry the Springfield Armory XDM Elite Compact in 10 millimeter? Well, first thing I had to do was figure out what to carry it in because the gun's brand new and there wasn't a whole lot of holster options that I could get right away. So I thought to myself, well, I've got a couple of leather holsters that are made for some of my other pistols like Glock 19 with the MOS, and the positioning of the optics is not exactly the same. And so I looked at another one that I had set up, and it actually had an open spot, so it didn't matter where the optics sat. So I used a Galco leather holster that was actually, it actually was for a Glock 19, but it had more open space right in here for the optic. And this is an outside the waistband holster. So it feels, I think that it would feel a little bit better if I was using, say, like an Alien Gear, like a Cloak Tuck that had, more padding. Because the gun, it's a compact gun, but with 11 rounds of 10 millimeter in here, plus 1 in the chamber, it's pretty heavy. It's heavier than I thought it would be. Comparing it to the Glock 19, it's kind of the same, but you've got some, shape considerations here too. Remember, if you look at this, you've got these contours, where the optic kind of sticks out a little bit wider than the top of the slide. And anything that's above the edge of your holster, obviously, you're going to feel. So I experimented with a few different ways of carrying this in the leather, and it wasn't bad overall. I think that if I had a more tailored holster for this, which I'm going to get, it'll be a little bit better. So we're going to get a Alienware Cloak Tuck for this, and we're going to give it a shot, and I'll give you some follow-up information on that after we get it done. But even in the Galco leather that I have, like I said, it's a pretty good fit, even though it wasn't made for it. And I like leather holsters for, carry guns because they're pretty versatile. And of course, once they soften up, they go against the body, and it's like you're not wearing anything at all. So as far as the weight, even though it's a little bit heavy for a compact with that number of rounds in there, it wasn't too bad. And I think that if you had the ideal holster for it, if you had a really good holster, I think you could probably carry this no problem. I think if you carried it without the optic, because I've got several holsters for other XDs, and I took the optic off and I used one of those holsters, and it made a huge difference. Like, I enjoy, playing around with optics, but I think that this gun I think this gun would be perfectly fine without the optic. I think it would be, for me, that's probably how I'm going to carry it, is without the optic, to make it smaller, and that gives me more holster options. But I've got several holsters, that fit this really well without the optic. The Crossbreed Super Tuck. I do have an Alienware for the regular XD, and I have 2 leather holsters that fit the XDs as well, and they would just dropped right in there. So with the optic, of course, you had to make sure you get something very specific. Without it, you've got a whole lot of options that are out there, and if you got one of those holsters, it's really nice, feels really well balanced, and it wasn't a problem to carry. Overall impressions of the Springfield Armory XDM Elite Compact 10mm. Well, I think that we have to answer the original question. Is this a good gun for concealed carry? And I think that's going to depend a lot on how you carry your gun. And let me explain. So, I think that the grip, like I say, it's not a deal breaker, but it's a little bit awkward doing the 2-finger thing. I've done that on some other compact guns too, but I think with the extended magazine it would make this a lot better, because it's not going to be that much bigger with the extended magazine. With the optic on the firearm, of course, it's going to be more difficult as far as holster choices. Not impossible. There's all kinds of stuff out there you can get, and of course they're making new stuff all the time, but this is a new release, and that's part of that. So you're going to be able to get whatever you want to, but as far as size, once this optic comes off the weapon, it gets a whole lot smaller, and it feels more like the size compact pistol that I would typically carry on me. So to me, it gets a lot more comfortable when I'm just dealing with this and not the optic. And I like optics. I like to play with them, but I typically don't carry gun with an optic on it, just because I'm trying to downsize as many things as I can. I'm the kind of person that will, it's not uncommon to see me carrying a 5-shot revolver or a really small, compact like a 365 or something, just because I'm trying to get the pistol as small as I possibly can. That way I'll carry it, because comfort is a huge consideration on your choice for concealed carry. So if you do decide to carry it with the optic, like I said, just get a good holster. Make sure it's a good size holster, like an Alienware or Crossbreed, or there's dozens and dozens of brands out there that can really spread the weight out over a larger holster with a couple of clips. Just get something like that. As far as performance, the gun shoots great. It wasn't picky with the ammo that I tried in it. And granted, we're going to get some more ammo just as it becomes available. We'll try some different brands. But the stuff that we tried, it was just absolutely flawless. It handles the 10mm round better than I thought it would. And the trigger is fantastic. To get that kind of trigger performance consistently over and over on a gun like this is not something that you have a lot. So when we talk about the things that are most important in a carry gun, remember, we want something that's accurate, and it is. We want something that's reliable, so far, it seems to be, and something that's comfortable. Well, I think it's more comfortable if you have it without the optic, just for me, because this is a little bit bigger than what I typically carry. And I think that with the extended magazines, I think that if you had the mag well removed with the longer mag, I think it'd be a lot more comfortable. But I think it's a really good overall package, and so I think that Springfield did answer the question about whether it's a good carry gun. Just going to depend on how you like to do it. For me, I'm probably going to carry it without the optic, and I'm going to get the extended magazine. But it's still a very good firearm. So if you've been considering the XDM Elite Compact in 10mm, it's definitely worth a look. All right. Well, that's going to do it for today, and we really appreciate you, as always, being with us. So we'll be back very soon with another video. So until then, as always, stay safe and have a great day.